of his talk, which he might not have ever been able to accomplish anyway, about better relations with Russia, better relations with North Korea, all of that wasn't on the table for the American establishment. So war, I think, will have an uptick in wars. I think we'll go back to that. I mean, remember Bush left Obama 2 wars, and Obama turned those into 7 wars. And those 7 wars are still going on. Afghanistan, we're into nearly 19 years now.
And that's one of the things I worry about, because some people are saying it's great to have America back in the world and, you know, in all these agreements and stuff, but part of me thinks, is that something that's really good for the world, for America to be back in everyone's affairs? Already I saw that Biden was talking tough on China and Iran, and, you know, I mean, that's, like you said, I mean, could lead to more wars, or at least conflict in the horizon near future.
Well, it's true, and I think this is all about defense. It's something that people have to understand about the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not a party like the Labor Party, where you have members, and those members have an influence on the party. Neither party is a party in that sense in America. The Democratic Party is essentially made up of hundreds of corporate lobbyists. That's what the DNC is. It is not a party of the people. The Republicans aren't either. They operate like a corporation, more or less. Now, the people who have the influence are going to be the donors, the big donors. And the big donors to the Democratic Party tend to be the Wall Street banks and Silicon Valley, first of all. But in America, all the big industries, they split their bets. I mean, they donate to both sides. Now, Biden, like every recent American president, works for the donors, not for the people. So what we're seeing now, but that's not what they say. That's not the impression they want to give. So what they say now is, so what's happening now is there are people like John Kasich, who is a Republican who was invited to the Democratic convention, their virtual convention, and did that crazy thing where he stood at an actual crossroads. He's come on now and he's said, well, this is the story. The Democrats now have to start listening to the other half of the country. Now you have to start listening to the Republicans, because look at all those people. Now, the Republicans would never do that. The Republicans would just say, well, all right, now we've got the votes. We're going to do what we want. But it's always what's in the Democrats. Now you got to start listening to the Republicans. And it's such a great thing, he said, that the Senate's going to be Republican and they'll thwart anything progressive Biden wants to do. And then you've got people like Jim Clyburn, who was the politician, a kind of an older black civil rights SNCC type of guy who has taken $1 million in the meantime as he's got older. He's no longer a progressive really, and he's taken $1 million from the pharmaceutical industry. Who was the guy who came out and told everyone, and it's kind of a machine politician it seems, told everyone in South Carolina, you've got to vote for Biden. And that's how Biden then took among other trickery, how Biden got the nomination away from Bernie Sanders. So there we went into Super Tuesday, and he's come out and said, yes, I'm a progressive, but the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is ruining the chances of winning. So many candidates in the Democratic Party were losing because of the influence of the left. So the point is, they're setting it up. Not only will nothing fundamentally change, but the party will move to the right, and we'll have more of the same. We'll have more money for the banks, more relief for the corporations. You know, the CARES Act was the largest upward movement of money in the history of the world. $5 trillion, and there's ways of leveraging that where it goes into more tens of trillions of dollars. So we are moving money up, even under Trump, under Biden, under Obama. None of that has been interfered with over this whole time. And the lie that they're telling is that people who ran on things that Americans want, whether they voted for Trump or Biden, Medicare for all, and $15 should be more, should be at least $20 minimum wage, marijuana legalization, all these things, all these progressive positions and more of those. I mean, those people won. If you look at those seats in which people ran on those progressive positions, they won. But again, the media headline is something completely different. The progressives are responsible why the Democrats didn't win the Senate.
Do you think it will ever be possible to get someone like Bernie Sanders into the White House?
No, because I don't think anything in America has fundamentally changed. I think that moving from Trump to Biden seems like a much bigger transition than what it is. I think it's just all we're really seeing is a matter of manners. And there may be little things around the edges that Biden does. He might create a public option for health care. There are a few things he might do, but overall, it's not going to upset the status quo. And I do not think that the way in which, if you look at how the reaction to this election and the follow-up story has been, I would say, a false analysis of what happened, highlighting something that isn't true, that the progressives ruin Biden's chances of other Democrats winning, of getting the Senate, for instance, or because they lost seats in the House. I don't think the reason for that was the progressives. But that's the story that you're going to read in the press, that you're going to see on the news. That's the story. And that isn't borne out by the facts of candidates who won on progressive tickets.
Do you think some people say that in 4 years a candidate might come out who is like Trump in his politics but more competent? I mean, Trump doesn't have politics, needless to say, but I mean that someone who's basically a fascist style leader, basically the leader of a popular movement on the very far right that might scapegoat immigrant groups or other things in a sort of traditional 20th century right-wing fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word fascist has a lot of different meanings. I think you could call Joe Biden a fascist leader because the fusion, some people define fascism as the fusion between corporations and the state, and that is exactly what we have in America.
That's true. Although I was discussing this today and I was saying, I think the difference was when Hitler introduced his kind of, I think they called it corporatism, he was basically the one, I think, calling the shots at the business. So in the sense that they were together, at least he was the one who was giving the orders. In this system, of course, it's the other way around. There's a leader, but the people who are giving the orders are the businesses with whom they're collaborating. So it's a funny reversal.
Well,
I think.
I would say, I guess, so what is your question? Will there be, okay.
Is someone going to come along next time and really, stir things up, in the country in a bad way?
I mean,
violently.
Biden would have to be a very different leader to what I believe he's capable of. I mean, there's nothing in his background that would suggest that he won't operate as he always has, basically, as a Republican. And Republican is essentially somebody, a Republican is a horrible person who basically just supports, and the Republican Party's always been there to support the wealthy, and they're always racist. I mean, there's never a time when the Republican Party hasn't been racist or used racist tropes and things to win elections. I mean, this is why black people never really vote for Republicans. And I think what you've seen with Biden, I mean, look, over the summer, this is what will tell you about the future, to me, of America. And I think something really important opportunity has been missed with Trump and with Trump's defeat. Over the summer, you had I guess some people say the largest sort of most widespread street demonstrations in American history. And yes, they were about a lot of things, but they were mostly about Black Lives Matter. Now, the whole Black Lives Matter thing has completely disappeared. Yes, it's true that Trump's followers, for the most part, at least the ones that are now going out and marching on Washington, the Christian fundamentalists and the racists, groups like the Prayer Boys and the whatever they're called.
Proud, isn't it?
No, there's There's the Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys. Yeah, okay, two different ones there. But there are others.
Yeah.
3%ers or something. And then, of course, there's the KKK, which never mentioned anymore, which I'm sure are very active still. They are obviously people who want to, obviously oppose to the Black Lives Matter movement, just like Trump said he tried to characterize demonstrators as all Antifa and dangerous and violent and, and send out federal troops to take them down. I mean, and a lot of his followers bought this idea that there was this violent movement. But in fact, it's an important thing, Black Lives Matter, because it's something about America that's foundational. I mean, racism in America is foundational. And there was no difference under Obama. If anything, more black people got shot in the back under Obama by the police than did under George Bush. Mm-hmm. So that is a constant. It never seems to get much better. And it's been forgotten now. And I think it's so central, this question of racism, anti-black racism, is so central to the future of the United States. What we're seeing, if we were ever to have a different government to what we have now, which is toward the fascist, I think that we would have to see an enormous change in how black descent, and I'm specifically in a way talking about the indigenous sort of black population of America, who are the most oppressed, the descendants of slavery. Mm-hmm. They would need to have, we need to have reparations. The whole question of that has to be addressed because it's the original foundational sin of the United States. Mm-hmm. And if we don't see that change, if we don't see the position of black people change fundamentally in America, we will not see a government that's more concerned about freedom. We will see a government that's less concerned about freedom. And we don't see that movement among white people. Even white people who say they're not racist are racist. And I mean, what I say that is because we're not taking the situation seriously. Mm-hmm. So if we don't see a material, important change in the lot of black Americans, we will not ever have a better government than what we have now. Because,
so how is that related then to the popular movement in a sense? I mean, so you're saying that you need to resolve that problem to then get a popular movement on the left?
Yes, because we're going to have a group of people. We can't have a good society, a society where we all have freedom. Mm-hmm. While there are these millions and millions and millions of people that continue to be oppressed. Right. We will not move to the left without them. And there is a bill, I think in California, a reparations bill, but reparations is a really important issue in the black community. It's an issue that white people never talk about. Yeah. We all talk about this saying, oh, race doesn't even exist. Well, this is a political question, and this is a question about money. They need to be, I mean, you can't have families in the United States that have negative wealth when you have people in Silicon Valley who have billions. I mean, well, I know Jeff Bezos, for all I know now, is a trillionaire. I mean, it's just becoming absurd. And they, to me, some people are saying now, oh, AOC actually, we should have a kind of a sort of truth and reconciliation commission that's so that people who worked in the Trump administration can never work in Washington again. Yeah, who is that? What does anyone know what a truth and reconciliation? We should have a truth and reconciliation commission the way South Africa had one. Yeah. And what we should do is we should be having who are the victims of Donald Trump? Yeah. What, AOC? I mean, the Democratic Party, all these people in the media with their hair on fire, white people with making $30,000 a day.